I'm now speaking with Geoff Paddock, 5th District City Council member. Geoff, welcome here. I've been wanting to talk to you here for quite a while and haven't had a chance to do so. Now, you are running unopposed right now. You know, when you go out here and talk at forums and different gatherings, how do you still stay motivated to give a strong message even though that you're running unopposed?
Well, I'm running unopposed in the primary, and that could change after the primary election because the Republican Party can put a candidate up until about the 1st of July. So we'll see what happens. But I'm motivated because I want to let folks know how much I enjoy serving in this position and how much I enjoy representing them, and I want to hear from them. And frankly, I'd like to help some of the other candidates who are running on my ticket. I'd like to see Mayor Tom Henry reelected, and eventually after the primary I'd like to see some of our Democratic candidates elected in some other districts, and of course in the at-large seats. So I'm motivated. I'm out raising funds. I'm going to be going door to door here very soon, probably right after Easter, and knocking on doors. I think somebody at our council meeting said nobody does that anymore. I've done that every campaign I've ever run. In fact, I usually knock on several thousand doors during both the primary and the general election. In the May and November elections, probably several thousand doors. So I like to meet people individually, let them know who I am, ask them what's on their mind, and see what we can do to improve city services. And I enjoy serving, and I like to meet people, and we'll continue to do that this election cycle.
Okay, now this is your 3rd term coming up?
No, just my 2nd.
Your 2nd term. You know, what is it, all right, now you're doing this, why? I mean, why did you enter the first time? I mean, what is about this, the arena here that originally attracted you to it?
I think, Eric, that public service is something that's very laudable. It's something I've enjoyed watching from a standpoint. I worked for some of our elected officials, Jill Long when she was in Congress, Evan Bayh when he was our governor, and before that, Secretary of State, and enjoyed the fact that you can really, I think, get involved in issues and help people. I think government, particularly on the local level, can do a lot to improve lives and to help people, and that's what I'm trying to do. Before I served on City Council, I served a term on the Fort Wayne Community Schools Board. I was elected in 2002, and I served a 4-year term, and my last year served as president of the Board of Trustees, and worked very hard to try to improve our public education system, which I think is very good here in Fort Wayne. We hired Superintendent Wendy Robinson, which I think was a smart move. She's done an excellent job with our school system. And I worked very hard to try to understand and appreciate all the things our teachers do. One of the things I did was visit every one of our schools. At the time we had 53. And I visited with a lot of teachers, principals, staff members, and parents, and tried to immerse myself. And then the opportunity came up to run for the City Council, and I thought this would be another opportunity to serve and to try to improve the community. I think we've got some good things going in Fort Wayne. We need to continue to make sure that we reach out and make sure everybody is affected in a positive way with city services, and that's one of the things I work very hard to do. But Fort Wayne has good momentum. We've got a great populace here of citizens who really care about this community, and I think on a local level governments can do some positive things, like with infrastructure and helping to attract more jobs to help our economy.
You know, I have questions about that, but before we get there, your involvement on the school board, there had to be something that happened to you while you were in school, or something at home that activated that appetite to want to be involved and serve. What was that, and who did that?
That's very intuitive of you, Eric, because that's exactly true. My mother was a school teacher. My mother, Kathleen, who's still living, age 92, was a school teacher and taught in our school system for over 40 years, and that includes time she spent at Indiana Purdue University. But she was a school teacher, and I was brought up in our public school system. I attended kindergarten through 12th grade at the Fort Wayne Community Schools, and I received a good education. We had good teachers, still do. And I could see some folks who might be well-intended, but I think some ideas might have been misplaced to try to change our system. We see the vouchers and charter schools and things like that really challenging the public education system. And I felt that it was important that we elect school board members who really want to work and fight to improve public education. So that's what I try to do. I think I was inspired by my mother, who was a school teacher, and I was also inspired by the many teachers I had from kindergarten through 12th grade in the Fort Wayne Community School System, and had an opportunity to run for a seat, was elected to it, and enjoyed the term that I served.
So when did your curiosity about Fort Wayne history kick in?
Well, and I must tell you that I was a history major at Indiana University, mostly U.S. and world history, and my Fort Wayne history might be a little rusty, and I'm glad that you're here to help us remind that. But I've lived in Fort Wayne all my life. I've really enjoyed growing up here and being a part of the population and seeing the positive things that our city does. But yes, trying to remember our history and make sure that we don't forget that, and we honor those who came before us, and we learn from history, I think, which is important as we go forward to try to lead our city and our state and our country. We don't forget those who blazed the trail before us, and we honor them for their service.
But you know what? The reason I keep bringing that up
Sure.
is Fort Wayne, again, we're sending people out to other cities to absorb their ideas and to see whatever worked there can probably work here too. But Fort Wayne has so many things that we're number one at. And I mean, the history here, I mean, not just the history, but just the fact that so many people died, more people died fighting over this land here. I mean, there are certain things that Fort Wayne has that's number one, all the way down the list. And we ignore all those, and we leave here and go other places to get their ideas and bring those back.
I think that's changing a little bit, Eric, to be honest with you. I was at an event with Mayor Henry just earlier today as we taped this program, and he was talking about how he gets to travel as mayor around to other communities in the state of Indiana, and even down in Indianapolis, which is our state capital and a much larger city. People say, wow, what's going on in Fort Wayne? You guys are really doing well. I think the image of our city is very positive around the state, and they see a downtown that's improving. They see the quality of life in the neighborhoods improving. We're investing more in infrastructure and resurfacing of streets and so on. And we're seeing the jobs start to come back, not only in manufacturing but in other areas, because I think people do see that we have a story to tell and we have a strong quality of life. And people are now starting to say, wow, maybe we ought to emulate a little bit about what Fort Wayne is doing, and to see just exactly how they're retaining jobs and bringing more jobs in and encouraging young people. I think this is the first time, Eric, that I can remember in my lifetime that we're beginning to see our young population graduating from high school, graduating from college, maybe going on to graduate school, but many of them now coming back or wanting to come back to Fort Wayne because they feel they have a future here. So I think that image is changing for the better, and that's one of the things that motivates me to serve. I think we want to continue to stay on that track and make sure that we are providing a good quality of life for the folks who live here, but also maybe patting ourselves on the back a little bit now and then to let folks around the state know, even in our state capital of Indianapolis, that Fort Wayne's a good place to be.
What do they see Fort Wayne as being? I mean, what is, when you say Fort Wayne, what do folks outside of Fort Wayne think of? Because a lot of people who I talk to in Fort Wayne don't know.
Yeah, I think when they come to Fort Wayne, they see a very attractive and burgeoning downtown with lots of amenities. We have museums, we have a Philharmonic, we have a great zoo, one of the best zoos in the country. A downtown baseball stadium now with a great team that plays. The mayor pointed out we've got professional teams in hockey and semi-professional teams in hockey and baseball and basketball. We've got a great genealogy department at the library. Somebody joked one time we don't necessarily have the oceans and the mountains that some of the other states might have, And maybe there's not a whole lot of scenic things here, but we have a great quality of life that once people find out about, I think they say, oh, gee, that might be a great place to live. You know, people talked about our quality of life improving and the fact that, you know, the cost of living here is relatively low compared to many large cities, and yet we have a lot of big city amenities here, and it's easy to get around Fort Wayne. You can get almost anywhere from downtown in 10 or 15 minutes. So I think all those things point out. I don't want to slight our school system, and we've got a great public school system here. We've got universities here, and industry that's coming back. So we just need to tout ourselves more, pat ourselves on the back a little bit more, not rest on our laurels. But I think when folks realize that we've got a great thing going here, and as I say, people who come to Fort Wayne, and even my friends in Indianapolis have bragged about our downtown, and see just exactly the improvements that we're making, it is impressive.
But you know, you mentioned that we don't have mountains or the ocean around here.
Yeah.
But you know, that just says that the real story of the rivers is so untold.
Yeah.
I did some checking, and in the time that George Washington first started attacking here, in today's numbers, there was millions and millions of dollars coming through these rivers going back to Europe,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
through the furs.
Right.
And as we're looking for identities to tie ourselves to, from what I understand, there was a real strong relationship between New Orleans and this land here, Kikiango or Fort Wayne,
Mhm.
because I was watching a thing. You know, right now they're celebrating New Orleans, the celebration of the end of the War of 1812, ended in 1815, and New Orleans is going to do it up. And they always said that you could leave New Orleans and make one stop before you go to Canada, and that stop was right here.
Is that in Fort Wayne?
Yeah, and we have such a historic international flavor here. Even Little Turtle said that, you know, this is a glorious gate, and everybody, all leaders travel through here,
Mm-hmm.
and that is so true for today. But for some reason, we just refuse to make the connection to show that the things that we're talking about today have been said forever and will be said forever, because geographically we're not going to change. We're still here.
Well, I hope some of that changes, Eric, frankly, as we begin to address the riverfront development that Mayor Henry's talked about, and other community leaders. And this is something that not only can, I think, help keep our city vibrant, but it's an area where we can help to tell our history. And part of what we've tried to do, as you know, the job that I've been involved in for many years, the building of Headwaters Park, is we've tried to preserve some of the natural local history in that area. And it's a floodplain that most people think about, in a festival center and an ice skating rink in the winter, but it's the heart of our city, near the confluence of the three rivers, which has a lot of history to it. In fact, we honor the statue of Little Turtle, which was placed there in 1976 during the country's bicentennial. And we actually built a section of Headwaters Park around Little Turtle so that he would still be there and watching over the confluence, and tried to put some native plants and trees and flowers and so on to more respect the memory of Little Turtle. And also with historic markers, talked about a lot of the things that happened down in that thumb area. So I think we're getting more sensitive to that, and I hope as we get into the riverfront development discussion here, 2015, 16, 17, that we're able to not only do something that's attractive as far as recreation, but something that I think will help preserve the history and memorialize that more for the general public to see.
You know, one more thing, since you're talking about that, I was sniffing around some books, and I found something very interesting. And one thing that has been totally ignored, but it's very important. Somewhere along near that statue in that water over there, there's a Hackley cemetery.
Is that right?
I saw it on a map. I saw it on a map, and because I know that the Captain James Hackley lived at 1402 Spy Run.
Okay.
And all that was, you know, he was in the Little Turtle family there.
Yeah.
And there's a Hackley family cemetery, and I see the curvings of the rivers, and I can never track it down.
Hmm.
So we got to do something about that. We got to mark that Hackley family
Exactly.
cemetery
Well,
there.
I want to find out more about that. So something must be built up over it. probably.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah.
just like when where Little Turtle's grave is. I mean, just think that is in a neighborhood with homes all around it. So it was through some, I think, fortuitous act, I think 75 or 100 years ago, that we recognized and more properly, I think, preserved and honored that site, which is a sacred site. It's a national, I think, historic site. And I think also it's been good that the Parks Department has taken great care over the last year, particularly last year, in preserving it and making it look a little bit better. So I think as we find those things out, and I think as we try to do down at Headwaters, we want to preserve the natural beauty of some of the historic parts of our city, and I think properly memorialize them so future generations can appreciate it.
Yeah, I know you're limited with the cemetery, with the gravesite of a little turtle, because you can't do too much with it, because there's Indian rules and laws and everything in there. But why isn't there a more of a grand announcement as you're heading north on Spy Run there, and if you don't see the sign that says Little Turtle's grave out of the way, you'll miss it. I mean, I would think that right there needs to be some real grand display, arc or something, because again, Little Turtle, we're not praising the killing of people, of Americans, but the way that he defended this land here, I mean, that is off the chart in terms of how good of a job he did that. But there's no recognition. I mean, people come from out of town all over the world to see his grave, and they're just underwhelmed with how that whole area looks.
I suppose it would be kind of a tough balancing act, because as you know, Eric, it's right there in the middle of a neighborhood, and there are homes on each side, and you say you've got to be careful because of the sacred nature of those grounds.
In front of Lawton Park I'm talking about, Lawton Park, this park over here, and I see an arc. That's another story.
But as far as to market, perhaps perhaps we can do a better job. And hopefully as we get into more discussion on how we can do something with our riverfront and take a look at those issues, maybe we can, as I say, do something to denote and memorialize these things more properly, so people do know about them and future generations can appreciate them.
You know, when you get back into council here, or next year, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to doing that you haven't done yet, or you're just not getting the ideas to do?
Well, and I think some of these are kind of ongoing, but what I want to do is try to continue to improve the quality of life. And as the city begins to recover from this terrible economy we've had, and jobs start to come back, we want to make sure that we reach out to everybody. And there are some that need some job training, there are folks that are homeless, there are people in need that we want to make sure that we reach out to and try to help as best we can. I want to see us continue with our infrastructure. We have a good highway system here. We have a great airport that I use a few times a year. And as you may know, I've been trying to bring back passenger rail service. I think that third leg of transportation would really be important to not only solidify the progress we're making in Fort Wayne, but continue to see growth. And again, young people want to stay here. It's something that's very important. I want to make sure that we are providing the best that we can at city services at the least cost to taxpayer. And I want to see us kind of dream big. More downtown development, more riverfront development. I'm fortunate. I'm a little bit unique in the position that I have, Eric, because my district, the district I represent, District 5, includes all of downtown Fort Wayne. So I'm a little bit more of a downtown person than maybe some of the others are. But I'm sensitive to the fact that we need to make sure we are reaching out and helping the neighborhoods. Because without good streets and sewers and street lights and curbs and sidewalks and so on, we will see property values decrease. So that's a very important issue for me, and I want to see us keep that momentum going. But we have, I think, the obligation in public service to continue to dream of the future and what we want to see Fort Wayne to be 20 years from now or 50 years from now after we're gone is something that I want to continue to work on, and I hope I can for the next 4 years in this capacity.
For those who don't know you and who might be newly registered and in the area here, what is about you that people don't know because you're not a braggadocious person about yourself? But what do they need to know about you that they don't know?
Well, I've lived here all my life and want to continue to for all of my life, and I just have a very special feeling in my heart for this city and a strong desire to serve. And I think you have to on some of these positions because it's tough work. It's not easy, and we don't have a big staff of people to help us. When you're a council member or a school board member, you're pretty much out there on your own, and that's okay. But you really have to have a love for this, and I do. And I think it's important that we make sure we're electing people who really have the desire to serve and who really want to contribute something positive to the growth of the community. I tried to do that on the Fort Wayne Community School Board, and I am continuing to try to do that as a city council representative. I have a great passion for this city, and I have a great passion to serve the citizens of Fort Wayne in this capacity and try to improve this city. So when I'm gone, it's a better place to live for the folks who follow me, just like the ancestors that we honor. And you and I have talked about that quite a bit, Eric. Did all that they could to leave a good community for us. We need to continue that tradition in our lifetime.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Eric. Nice to be with you.
And thank you for watching.